Okay, well, in this How I Studied, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at working with variables, different variable types now. Because I know in the past couple videos I've already been working with string types, and so I'm feeling pretty comfortable with those, how to assign a value, how to use the value, and that's all really good. But here now I have all these other different types, and they're drastically important. They're critically important because programming is based all around your types. What are we working with? Are we working with a word? Are we working with a number, a decimal, things like that? So I'm confident knowing that at least I know how to work with strings. So will it be too different me going in here and working with integrals, working with float numbers, working with all these other things? Let's go ahead and find out. So first, let's go ahead and take a look. I have my little list here of references. I have like 8 different whole numbers, and I have 3 decimals, and I have these 2 character ones and a boolean. That's a lot to take on. So, but I'm feeling, well, if I can at least do one of each, then I should be pretty confident in the other ones. I'm not going to worry about knowing all the specifics of these others. That will come after I'm comfortable with declaring my variables and being able to use them. So I'm going to take the common default ones, and these are when we have our integral, it's going to be int. With our decimals, I'm going to be using double. With our characters, I already know about string, but I want to try out char also. And then for bool, I just have bool. So I've gone ahead and I've made some comments in my .NET Fiddle here so I don't need to keep jumping back and forth between references. I just have the information on screen and I can move forward. So let's take a look at our goal here. My goal is to understand how to assign different data types. Seems simple enough, but here I put a sub goal because I have more. I could just do one type if I wanted, but I wanted to be comfortable working with numbers, working with booleans, working with all these different things. So I'm going to test out at least one from each category, and I threw in decimal here because I know it takes a little bit more to get that working. So starting out, I asked myself the question, how will I end up testing this? Because I already know that if I were to do a console.writeLine, if I were to just put the number 5, and this is an int, right? Well, if I run it, I see it says 5. That's wonderful, except for the fact here that a 5 in quotes would look exactly the same. So that doesn't really tell me if I changed my type. So I need to do something that's specific to a type that shows that the computer is understanding, hey, you're no longer working with a string, you're working with an int or a double. Well, something you can do with ints and doubles that you can't do with strings is math. So if I know my variables will be working, if I can do something like 5 plus 5, if this is working properly, it should show 10. Otherwise, it's only going to show 55 because it concatenated. Show 10. Well, I knew 5 plus 5 is going to show up as 10 because it's doing math. So now that I have this guideline in place, I'm going to start testing out my variables. So here I'm going to start with int first. So I'm going to do int, because I know this is how a string is declared. I put the type, and I have my list of types here, and now I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say first number. I'm going to have it equal 5. Starting out, does it stop yelling at me? It stops yelling at me. It just gives me the yellow, and all this is saying is that, hey, you haven't used this yet, and that's correct. So I'm going to do this again because I need to add some numbers. In fact, if I really wanted to, I could go ahead and take first num here. I'm going to replace this first 5 with first num, so with my variable name, and I ran it, and we still got 10. That's fantastic. To me, that's telling me that I have declared an int. I have declared a number. The computer recognizes that as a number, and I'm now able to use that. And we've already taken this step, so why don't we take it a step further? I'm going to do int second num, and we'll do the number 7. And I'm going to replace this with second num. Give it a second, stop yelling, run. Boom, 12. This is exciting. I did the same process as I did with string. I just know that if I need to do math, I'm going to need to do something that tells the computer, hey, I'm working with numbers. For us, that's an integer, so I just do int, give it a name, and give it a value. And again, if I tried to do something like, what happens if I try to do it with quotes? Is it going to let me? No, it won't let me. It cannot implicitly convert type string to int. We'll get more into those words later. But we see we can't even apply a string here. We're going to stay with just the number 5. And that's perfect. So we already know this is how our int works. And I'm going to keep this all together. because I like keeping my stuff organized. This is int. How to declare and use an int. Perfect. Now I'm going to come down to the next part. Let's move this back up here. And then that's for int. We're going to take a look now at double. Do the same exact thing. So my keyword here is double. So I'm going to do double first double equals 5. And I know it's supposed to be a decimal, something with a decimal number. So I could probably just put 5. It won't yell at me. It will work just fine. But then it defeats the purpose. So now I'm going to do 0.6. Doesn't yell at me. Now I'm curious, though. It's always nice to be curious. All right. As soon as I did 5.6, I could not turn it into a double. That is perfect. There are more words there we'll talk about in the future. You don't need to worry about that now. First double is going on. Let's do the same exact test. Copy, paste. We're going to use first double. And then I'm going to add it to 2.3. They're going to yell at us? Not going to yell at us? All right. Same exact test as before. Run it. 7.9. That's a double. That has a decimal point. The math adds up. Things are looking good. So now I'm going to do the same as the first time. Double, second, double equals 2.3. I know I should be expecting 7.9 if everything is working. Second double, run, 7.9. Perfect. I want you to pay attention to what I'm looking for here, which is consistency. I expect an answer, and as I change things, I have to adapt to what's happening on screen. I expected 7.9 to happen, and so if I were to put the second double in there and it didn't show up like that, then I need to explore into what's going wrong. Or even just what's different. Maybe something's not going wrong. What matters is I understand what's happening. So far so good. We're dealing with, we have our ints, we have our doubles. Well, now let's go ahead and take a look at decimal. Because decimal is basically the same as doubles, right? Well, there's one little difference you have to keep an eye out for. So we're going to do decimal, decimal, and I know something weird's going to happen if I change this to decimal. Decimal. It yells at me. Literal of type double cannot be implicitly converted into type decimal. Lots of scary words. All it's really saying is, hey, I know you're trying to do something with a double. Everything that's like 5.6 or 12.30, something like that, is usually taken in as a double type. The computer expects that, because if you go to decimal, it takes up a lot more space. You really need to be sure you want to use decimal. So it wants you to give a little extra validation, verification. So what I'm going to do here, from what I know, is decimal has an M suffix. And what that's saying is after I have my number, I'm just going to put the letter M. There we go. And that works just fine. I'm going to do the same thing here. Because I already know how the math is supposed to work. So it's no longer yelling at me. We're getting rid of our syntax errors first. Those are the easy ones. And everything works out right when I run this. 7.9. Perfect. Our decimals now both did math. We're looking great. I'm feeling pretty comfortable here. I know ints, I know doubles, I know decimals, I know math. I'm able to do basic math. We're looking good. So now I'm going to come down to, let's go ahead and get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this. Like, I love a little checklist. I love knowing that everything's working properly. All right, so we're going to go with char next because it's the easier of the two. We're going to do char. Again, I know what I'm working with. I'm always removing the clutter, because when you have a list of things, it can be really distracting. Here, I'm only focusing on one thing. This one's char. And I know my keyword is char. I know how a variable is declared, so it should be the same process. I'm going to do char letter equals, and here I know specifically that it has single quotes. So let's try that out. A. Syntax, no error. That's looking great. Well, let's see. I'm going to probably test this anyway. Second char. Let's stick with our naming convention. First char. And then second char equals B. But what happens if I do this? What if I do double quotes? Do I get any errors or anything? Expected, declared but never used. Ooh, let's try it out. Let's see what it does. Console.write line. First things first, I want to go ahead here. And I want to see what second char looks like. Because I expected something, and it's no longer... Oh, wait a second. It didn't catch up to us. Again, I'm using the online tool, so it has a slight delay. It cannot be converted into a char. Again, it's all about types and conversions. The computer expects one thing, and if it doesn't get that thing, it's very confused. Here, expected a char, and we know chars are dictated by their single quotes. So I'm going to do B, single quotes, and that works. Let's go ahead and run this. I just have second char up. If this works properly, B should appear. We got B. Perfect. So far, so good. So I know this is working. I really don't know what happens if we just combine the two. Do we concatenate just like normal with a string? Is it happy at us if we do this? Let's try it out. Run. Oh, what is this? What is this? This is kind of weird, isn't it? We'll get into this more in the future. But this is what's happening here is that behind the scenes, chars are actually numbers. I'm not going to go into too much detail right now. This technically just worked as math. So you wouldn't want to add A plus B as a char unless you knew what you were doing. So we're just going to go ahead here. Actually, what I might do is do... yeah, I normally wouldn't work with it like this. I know I can declare 1 or 2 and display a letter. But when you're working with regular letters and things like that, just stick with strings for now. It's just fine. As long as I know I can declare a char, I'm pretty happy with myself. The last one here is Boolean. See, we're already through our 5 types. It's amazingly fast. We're going to go ahead and take a look here. Bool. Same exact example. Yeah, doing a bool. First bool equals true. So, yes, bool. Second bool equals false. I'm going pretty fast here, right? But by now we've had the repetition. We have this pattern down. I know what I'm trying to do, and I know what I'm looking for. I'm less hesitant than when I first started, and this is the comfort you're going to grow into as you keep working on your practice. So I'm going to do console, and I am going to paste, and let's just say first bool, and run. We have true. Perfect. If I did second bool, false. Also excellent. What happens if I combine the two? First bool plus second bool. I think a lot of bool's about to happen. Run. Error. Error, error, error. That is because these are not math. You cannot do math with bools because math are integers, are doubles, are those families. Here, this is just true or false. And so that's why it's yelling at us. But in the future, you're going to learn about something called comparison operators. Basically, what this is saying is when you do things with true or false, no matter what your answer is going to end up being true or false in some way, shape, or form. And you use what are called comparison operators. And I'll even give you a hint to what they look like. They're greater than, less than, equal, double equal sign. Less than equal, greater than equal. This is just saying, is this value equal to, greater than, or less than this other value? You're comparing two things, and we will see this. I'm going to say first bool equals first bool. So I'm saying, are these two, are the values the same? And I'm going to run. It says true. Well, I mean, I knew this was going to be true anyway, so why don't we do it like this? Second bool. Second bool. These are both false, right? Run. True. That is because they are both false. They are both equal. So the answer is true. So now if I did something like first bool equals second bool, what I should be expecting now will be false because they are not the same. False. Perfect. Well, if I wanted to make it so I got true with this, we have another operator called the is not equal to, which is an exclamation point and an equal sign. And I'm going to use that. Are these two not the same? True. Fantastic. So here, with just about 15 minutes of practice, I've been able to go through, with my same syntax that I've been using with string, I know how to declare a type, a name, and how to assign a value. I've gone through my ints, my doubles. I've been testing them with methods that I know would work, which are, I know with math, or with numbers, I can always do math. So I've been doing it with these first three right here. It worked fine. Character gave me a little bit of a surprise, but I learned something new, right? As long as I could display one thing, and that was displaying this character, it was still working properly. And now I know I've been able to display true, false. And also I've been able to use a comparison operator to know those are working. That is how I got comfortable with data types.